What up, folks? Welcome back. Today we're talking about the essential gear you need to get started in wedding photography. Let's get into it. All right, guys, I want to start by saying don't get overwhelmed with gear. If you get overwhelmed with gear early on in your wedding photography business, you will never get started. And that's because gear is extremely expensive and a lot of it is really unnecessary. So first off, I want to say when I started my business, I rented a lot of my gear, and that was so helpful and such a good business model because it gave me the ability to start booking weddings early on and not have to save up a big chunk of $20,000, $30,000 to get all the gear that I wanted. So for that reason, I highly recommend renting your gear. Buy the essential gears that you need to shoot your engagement session, but start booking your weddings early on and just rent the gear for the wedding day. So that's tip number one. Now let's get into the actual gear recommendations. The wedding day is such an important day and it only happens once. So for a lot of your clients, your bride and groom, this is the most important day of their entire life. My essential rule is having backups for everything. Do not get stuck out in the field at a wedding without backup gear because your gear will fail and you will just get stuck there and have absolutely no options. So save yourself a lot of time and a lot of headache and just have backups of everything. And I'm gonna get into exactly what gear you need right now. All right, let's get started talking about camera bodies. And really, I don't need much here. A lot of the camera bodies that are on the market today can shoot a wedding no problem. I do have a couple essentials though. Number one, I need fast and accurate autofocus. You can't have a camera that has slow autofocus, it's laggy. You will miss really key important shots. So autofocus is really important. Another thing I require is dual card slots. I require dual card slots because you will have a memory card fail, corrupt, slow up on you, freeze up, and just having dual card slots gives me the peace of mind that I will always have a backup of my images. So that's essential. I also need somewhat good low light performance. I don't need a low light monster, but I need something that can hold up in those darker reception areas. And that's about it. So there's a lot of cameras on the market, the Fujis, a lot of the Sonys, a ton of the Canons, the Nikons, they can all have cameras. You can get a camera for about $500 to $1,000, you can get a camera body that can shoot a wedding, no problem at all. So those are my key essentials for camera body. Also talking about camera bodies, I will never go out and shoot a wedding with just one body. I will always have two bodies. So if you own or are buying a camera body, I would just say rent a backup body that's similar, that can use your same lenses to have as your backup or to have as your dual shooter for the camera day. So what I like to do on the wedding day is have dual bodies. One with a more wide angle and one with my tighter lenses on there. So I could just be able to get any shot I want and not have to switch out lenses throughout the day. Another reason why it's awesome to have two bodies. All right, let's talk about lenses a little bit. And I am a prime shooter, but that changes very on your taste. So whether you're a prime or a zoom shooter, I'm gonna give you both options here. Let's start with primes. For primes, I would say it's essential to have a 35 and a 50, 1.8 or 1.4 for just a lot of your workhorse photos. So a lot of the details, a lot of the wedding party, a lot of the portrait shots, a lot of the crowd shots, those are all on the 50 or the 35. I can shoot a ton with those two lenses right there. On the flip side, if you're a zoom shooter, I would say you definitely need a 24 to 70 2.8 to be able to have some low light capabilities and a nice zoom range to shoot a lot of those assortment of photos. And that'll give you a nice big wide at the 24 and some tight enough to get some really nice portrait shots at the 70. My most essential lens, whether you're a prime or a zoom shooter, is a 70 to 200 2.8. That is essential for every single wedding. Now you can get away with a 70 to 200 f4, but I would say if you can afford it or if you're renting it, definitely get the 2.8. Now here's why. In a ton of weddings that I shoot, I will get there and there will be a huge guest list, 200, 300, 400 plus people at these weddings. That might not be the case for you, but you will run into this. You will also run into large churches, huge cathedrals with long aisles, and you will not be able to get the essential shots you need. A 70 millimeter being your longest lens, or even an 85. You need the 70 to 200 range. You don't want to be all up in the aisle, at the front of that aisle, shooting for the exchanging of the rings and the vows and when she's crying and if there's a sand ceremony. You don't want to be up in the middle of the aisle for that. And sometimes you can't get around the sides, or even if you can't get the shots you want. So that 70 to 200 will give you the reach to be able to get those beautiful images and not disrupt the ceremony. And that is really key. So for those those reasons, I would say it's absolutely essential to have a 70-200 in your bag at all times. That is one of my most used lenses. I probably use that, I would say 30 to 40% of the time through every single wedding that I shoot. So it is an absolute beast of a lens. Now, it is really expensive. My Sony G Master cost me about $2,700 for that 70-200 2.8. So it is a super expensive investment, but it is key. So I would say rent it until you can afford it, and then that should be one of the first lenses that you're buying. So if you're a zoom shooter, I would say get a 24-70 2.8, and then get yourself a 70-200 2.8 or f4, and that will cover a huge range. You could shoot any wedding on those two lenses. So that's a great starting point there. If you're a prime shooter, I would say get a 35 1.8, 35 1.4, and a 50 1.4 or 1.8. And then I would say as a luxury item, you can throw in an 85 1.8 or 1.4. I do love the 85 millimeter because it is the most flattering lens for human beings. So it just puts out the most beautiful images. So if you want to take that bride out at sunset and just get the most beautiful flattering images of her, the 85 millimeter prime lens is that go-to. But it is more of a luxury item. I don't need that. I can certainly do a workaround on my 70-200 or a 50 1.4. That's all you need for lenses to get started. You know, you could throw in a wide angle and you could throw in some of the more elaborate lenses, but just to get started, those are the lenses that will do the trick. To some of the essentials that aren't frequently talked about. First of all, memory cards. This is my memory card holder. Also an essential you will need a lot of memory cards. And this is really important. Do not cheap out on memory cards. Memory cards are the most crucial point of this whole process, because if your memory card corrupts, you're out of luck. You will lose those images. I've had a memory card corrupt on me from a wedding. I sent it into a lab, tried to get the images extracted. I sent it into another lab. Nobody could do it. I spent thousands of dollars trying to get those images back, and I lost part of that wedding and had to go to that bride, and I had to refund money. I had to do this and that, and really, just beg for forgiveness, because there's nothing you can do to get those images back. I learned my lesson once. Do not skimp on memory cards. Do not buy them used. Do not buy them on eBay or Craigslist. Buy them from reputable dealers, because there are a lot of fake memory cards out there. I learned that the hard way. I actually had a fake Lexar in my bag and didn't even know it, and found out just by happenstance. So make sure you buy from B&H or Adorama. I'll provide some links below, but make sure you buy from reputable places and get good Lexar or SanDisk memory cards only. High quality memory cards, don't skimp out here. In terms of size, I like a 64 gig minimum. You can get away with some 32s, but I like 64s. I don't like to get too big on memory cards. I don't like to shoot an entire wedding day on a 256. Because if you lose that one memory card, you lose the whole wedding day. Whereas if you shoot on multiple 64s or 32s, if you lose one, you just lose a portion of that wedding day, and that's what I like to do. So I like to switch up cards in between. You will need a bunch of cards. I would say 6, 7, 8 memory cards, depending on how many weddings you're shooting and if you're doing back-to-backs. I just like to have plenty of memory in my bag at all times, so I know I won't have to run out. Another thing you will need is a lot of backup memory. So external hard drives are crucial. For what I like to do, I like to play everything safe with my wedding, so I know I won't lose anything. So the first thing when I do when I get home from a wedding day is drop the entire set onto an external hard drive. I then keep a copy on my computer for editing, and then I put a third copy into a cloud storage just as a third backup. So that's kind of my workflow for keeping track of all of my weddings. Your memory will fill up fast, so I recommend a lot of good quality external hard drives. You don't want to just keep one copy on your computer, so those are essential just starting out in your business. Next thing, let's talk about external lighting. You will need flashes. So for these, I don't recommend the most expensive, all the bells and whistles on a flash. You can get away with a full manual flash like a Yongnuo 563. I shot those flashes forever, but I will say do get backup. So get multiple flashes, because those flashes can break on you all the time. So I'd say get 2 or 3 flashes, have them in your bags at all times. I also like to have some type of diffusion for those external flashes. I just think having a flash really harsh in a wedding just isn't a very flattering photo. So I like to diffuse it. I have this Gary Fong light diffuser that cost me about 50 bucks. So I like to have that in my bag at all times. I think that's an essential. It is essential to have a flash. You will need external flashes because in the reception, it will get dark. If you want those dance photos, you will need that flash. Another thing you need to think about is the batteries that are needed. You want to make sure you have plenty of battery power for all of your gear. So for your 2 camera bodies, make sure you have plenty of batteries. If you're renting a camera body, make sure you rent extra batteries. Have those all charged up the night before and ready to go. One of the most common things I see from other wedding photographers, and it's just unprofessional and tacky, is to bring uncharged batteries through the ceremony and then having it plugged in at the church or plugged in at the reception, trying to charge up a battery for later on. And it just looks bad, it's unprofessional, it's tacky, and it's really bad if you need to run back and get a battery and switch out if you're at different sites. It's just, don't do it. Save yourself the headache, have all your batteries charged and ready to go, have all your cards formatted and ready to go the night before, have all your lenses cleaned, have your sensor cleaned, and make sure everything is just fresh and ready to go. It'll give you a piece of calm peace of mind to go into the day stress-free, and that will emulate in your photos, and that will show in the couple. They will feel that you're relaxed, you're calm, you're confident, and you're ready to go. And those are all keys to a successful wedding day. Last piece of gear I would say is not essential, but almost, is some type of camera straps for your cameras. So I like to have a belt with harnesses on me. I use the Spyderco belt system. I like to have my bodies on me at all times ready to go so I don't miss any shots throughout the day. If you have one camera slung around one shoulder and another camera in a bag and you're switching out, when you need that wide shot, you got that, but then when you need to switch to get the tight, you missed it and you just missed the moment. So I like to have my bodies on me at all times. I think it's an essential purchase. You don't really need it to get started, but I like having some type of camera straps to have them on me at all times. Another tip I have is you do not need to get Sony or Canon or Nikon brand name gear. You can do a lot with the third-party lenses and third-party gear like Tamron and Sigma. I'll provide some of the links below for those. Those are great lenses. Those are great gear. I shot a ton on those. Actually, this is shot on a Tamron wide angle right now. And they're just really good third-party lenses. So I'd say invest in those and get more lenses for more bang for the buck. I'm all about value. So those third-party lenses can do a ton of great work. And with that being said, that's all I got for essential wedding photography gear. If you found value in this video, please like and subscribe. Hit me with a thumbs up. I appreciate you guys. Till next time, peace.